Hey everyone, I think we are streaming now. Are we streaming? I'm going to see. We're not streaming yet. Well, we are streaming. So this is very cool. We are streaming. This is the Heartland, number 4, and I'm going to be talking to you, uh, uh, enjoying my coffee, live streaming, and I've got something I want to talk to you about. So I'm just trying to pull it up because it's a lot. That's why I'm doing a live stream. So I'm going to um, see if I can't make everything work just as I want it to. So we're going to get started. We'll get started in just a moment. Hang on. Let's see. There we go. Oh, this is perfect. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, this is beautiful. I'm working with Google Meet, by the way. I always wonder what everyone else is working with. And, we're a high budget show here, so we definitely use Google Meet. Anyway, this is David Steinman. I'm the author of Raising Healthy Kids, Protecting Your Children from Hidden Chemical Toxins, and Chief Officer of the Chemical Toxin Working Group. I'm here today to tell you your kids' favorite strawberries are loaded with forever chemicals, and this unbiased doctor is telling you to chill. Mamavation's shocking lab test exposed 12 pesticides, 8 of them PFAS, on Driscoll's conventional berries at levels banned in Europe. But Dr. Jess Steier is attacking the messenger and claiming there's nothing to worry about, the dangerous truth the influencers don't want you to see. My reason for initially doing this podcast and writing my article, which you can find in the Environment magazine on Medium, was that Dr. Jess Steier of the Unbiased SciPod, an online influencer in science and health, appeared to be attacking Mamavation, a for-profit consumer watchdog community and digital media company founded by Leah Sajedi. Mamavation published a public service investigative news article about pesticide issues with Driscoll strawberries, which went viral. Now, this is a big issue here in California and elsewhere. Driscoll strawberries account for about 1/3 of all strawberries grown in the U.S., according to an article in the New Yorker. And you can get all the documentation, all the backup, because there's plenty in my article, when you go to Medium and the Environment magazine. Mamavation sent 2 boxes of Driscoll strawberries from a Southern California grocery store to an Environmental Protection Agency certified laboratory in early May, requesting testing for more than 500 pesticides. 1 box held conventionally grown strawberries, the other organic strawberries. The results were a bit shocking, Mamavation writes. According to our laboratory, Driscoll's conventional strawberries contain residues of 12 different pesticides at levels prohibited in the European Union, Taiwan, Chile, Korea, and Russia. 8 of those pesticides are considered PFAS, forever chemicals, meaning they are extremely persistent and highly toxic. These pesticides are also known as forever pesticides. Here are the fluorinated pesticides detected in their levels. Flunocomid, 32 parts per billion, or ppb. Fludioxonil, 60 ppb. Flupyridifurone, 27 ppb. Fluxapyroxid, 26 ppb. Indoxacarb, 25 ppb. Limits also exceed EU, Taiwan, and Chile standards, and we'll come back to indoxacarb in a few minutes because that's one that Steier really abuses. I'll tell you why they do, why they abuse it so badly. Novaluron, 19 ppb, exceeds EU standards. Tetracosanol, 13 ppb. TFNG, it's an environmental metabolite of flunocomid, 35 ppb. Here are the other non-fluorinated pesticides found on conventional strawberries. Cyprodinyl, 125 ppb. Pyrimethanol, 310 ppb. Quinoxaphene, 45 ppb. Limit exceeds Korean standards. Tetrahydrothalamide, THPI, 302 ppb. Dr. Craig Downs, Executive Director of Hereticus Environmental Laboratory, had this to say after his review. Fluorinated pesticides are a growing source of PFAS contamination in the environment and on and in our foods. There is debate with the US EPA if single fluorinated pesticides are truly polyfluoroalkyl substances, but they are perfluoroalkyl substances. But many of the fluorinated pesticide metabolites are long-lived to the point they are considered forever chemicals. These fluorinated pesticides also act like PFAS because they will accumulate in our bodies over the long term, are associated with cancer risk, reproductive diseases, developmental diseases in children, and cause immune suppression. It would be smart to try to completely avoid being exposed to them. Then came recommendations for Mamavation. Mamavation advisors recommend you stick to organic strawberries if you want to lower the amount of pesticides and PFAS you consume when purchasing produce. 37% of non-organic produce samples tested by the state of California had traces of PFAS pesticides. Steier's response, just excuse me one second, they want to know if I'm still here, and I'm going to stay in the call. That's, you have to learn how to manipulate all these little things. But I'm here and you're here, so this is all good. Steier's response was prompted by a specific myth that has landed in our inboxes 1,000 times this week, that eating strawberries will give us cancer. That single shopping trip became headlines around the world claiming Driscoll's strawberries cause cancer. Steier, along with co-influencers Dr. Joe Zagorski, Doc Joe, and the Food Truth Project, seems, at least from this post, to be among the worst kinds of public health policy advocates and scientists, if you can even call them that. Steier basically said, "Don't worry," and began offering all the usual hackneyed arguments that I frequently see abused in the legal actions and litigation that the Chemical Toxin Working Group, the nonprofit for which I'm chief officer, counters in the state of California. One tactic: break up reality into small pieces. When I say break up reality, I mean Steier suffers from a sort of public health policy myopia. It is as if we are on the plains of Africa and a rogue elephant is charging. Steier's the kind of guide and protector who would focus on the first vertical foot of a single pillar of one leg of the rogue elephant, charging them, failing to see the whole creature, thus downplaying the threat. It is merely a foot, not to worry, they say. That is all they want to see. That is all they want you to see as their followers. Only that one foot. I can't explain why, but some are smart enough to scatter, as you'll see in a moment, while others are left to be trampled, failing to see that when their caretaker and protector told them it was only a foot, they were being misled in the extreme. Nowhere did Mamavation assert that strawberries themselves cause cancer, or that cancer was their sole concern. They expressed concern over reproductive toxicity to the embryo, where we now know so many of our children's developmental delays are initiated by toxic exposures at levels lower than those known to cause cancer. Nor did they say that eating Driscoll strawberries would cause cancer. Hate the sin, not the sinner, as some want to say. It is the chemicals. Mamavation likes strawberries, I'm sure. Chemicals, not so much. The group noted that organic strawberries were free of detectable pesticide residues, at least the ones they had tested, and advised buying them. In fact, organic strawberries are likely to have much lower pesticide levels, according to my review of hundreds of California berry samples. Studies also show lower urinary pesticide levels among organic consumers, as noted in peer-reviewed reports, which are available in my article in the environment on Medium, and you can go there now and get those references. Another common tactic is to invent facts, shift the goalposts, and make assertions with little, if any, basis in reality. Finally, in a fit of gaslighting, they try to pass off their pseudoscience as unbiased. If this were a legal case, I would understand Steier's rationale. We see these types all the time in our more than 200 legal cases in California alone. This is someone paid to take a legal view, often one in opposition to public health and supporting corporate interests over the law and human rights, especially the law as intentionally written. Others receive grants or money in other ways. Steier claims to be unbiased. Steier noted the post had no direct financial sponsor. But one wants an expert to be up to date, to know the literature, to not bring heirlooms to a party of modern science and public health policy. and finally to have a bit more than a nearsighted vision of what it means to cause cancer in a modern world that is filled with carcinogens. PFAS pesticides is not a real scientific category, Steier states for the first time, but certainly not Steier states for the first, but certainly not only Pinocchio of the Post. It's a term the blog made up. The blog took any pesticide containing a fluorine atom, relabeled it a forever pesticide, and slapped the entire PFAS health scare onto it. They even claim these pesticides build up in your body but offer no evidence for it, which is the whole reason real PFAS are a concern. So let me ask, does Steier assert that the dangers of PFAS are a health scare? Really? Because PFAS are no hoax. Their health threat is real and proven. Just ask my friend Michael Hickey of Hoosick Falls, New York, whom I reported on at Medium and the Good Men Project. You can find the report at Medium, just Google it. He lost his father to PFAS-related cancer. The rates of testicular cancer in the town are also quite elevated, he added. PFAS pesticides is not made up. The PFAS family includes substances with one or more fluorine atoms. Misinformed and awakening from years of drowsiness, the sleepy doctor appears to be working with heirlooms from years past. If Steier had been keeping up with science, the self-proclaimed unbiased pundit of science would have read this article based on work done by the International Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, a new OECD definition for per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances in the 2021 issue of Environmental Science and Technology. The report presents a revised, broadly inclusive PFAS definition. PFAS are defined as fluorinated substances that contain at least one fully fluorinated methyl or methylene carbon atom, with a few noted exceptions. Any chemical with at least a perfluorinated methyl group or a perfluorinated methylene group is a PFAS. This is the modern definition. Instead, Steier chooses provinciality and antiques. The doctor chooses to use the highly politicized, laggardly EPA's definition of PFAS, requiring two fluorinated carbon atoms, which would be fine if its definition weren't mired in politics and as outdated as the agency's continual proclamation that glyphosate or Roundup doesn't cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a type of environmental cancer most other international organizations and studies acknowledge is associated with this herbicide. And I should add, the reason why EPA won't change its definition of PFAS is because guess what? Then it would have to regulate all of these PFAS pesticides with only one fluorine saturated carbon atom. Get it? It's all political, and the doctor's playing right into it. It gets worse. In an unwitting attempt to mislead, the three misfits throw shade on the notion that these chemicals accumulate in the human body. Just ignore the facts and make up ignore the facts. Just ignore the facts. It's so MAGA. In fact, in the October 2024 issue of Environmental Science and Technology, EPA scientists convey that we are concerned that the total accumulation of all PFAS degradates, both known and unknown, will be a risk issue. Another heirloom era play the doctor uses is worth one more Pinocchio. Steier writes, third and most important, even if every number in that report is accurate, the residues are far below any level of concern. You would have to eat 123 pounds of strawberries every single day for the rest of your life to reach the EPA's chronic safety threshold for indoxacarb. Remember, I told you we'd get back to it. One of the pesticides that they flagged. And that threshold already includes a 100-fold safety buffer. A normal serving of strawberries puts you at a tiny fraction of that number. A classic case of shifting the goalposts, something that is so MAGA. Didn't Steier start off by saying the issue was whether Driscoll strawberries cause cancer? But indoxacarb has no evidence of carcinogenicity, according to a published report. In other words, that's only shifting the goalpost. That's lying to you folks. They're trying to make it sound as if this chemical causes cancer and you'd have to eat 123 pounds of strawberries every day to get cancer. That's not what this is about. Indoxacarb doesn't cause cancer. It's shifting the goalpost, and it's abusing you as a consumer or someone who follows this really bad science person. You can fool a lot of people. You can move the goalpost, bait and switch, all of that. But the argument the doctor counters with is worthless. The facts are wrong at the core. As chief officer of the Chemical Toxin Working Group, also known as the Healthy Living Foundation, I regularly review California's annual pesticide monitoring reports. The state's reports are among the most revealing in the nation, if not the world. They indicate that many other pesticides, in addition to those Mamavation detected, can be found on strawberries. Mamavation's lab failed to detect prevalent residues of captan, boscolid, imidacloprid, pyraclostrobin, pyromethanil, trifloxystrobin, fenpropathrin, iprodione, metalaxyl, bifenthonate, hexythiazox, and many others. This is due to the limited sample size, of course, that Mamavation worked with. Yet some like captan, which occur frequently on our strawberries, are clear-cut carcinogens. Others, such as pyraclostrobin, are endocrine disruptors in experimental studies at amounts measured in the parts per billion, suggesting a similar impact on the human embryo, which, remember, the human embryo is only a few cells. It's like any other vertebrate at that point, according to published peer-reviewed research. That's why we use zebrafish, because at the embryonic stage, everything in the vertebrate family is conserved. It's all there. That's how we know where birth defects and teratogenicity is initiated. It's very early on. That's what we know from zebrafish. So maybe Steier attacked the wrong person. Mamavation's initial report became distorted as it passed from one social media platform to another and was ultimately produced by AI. One apparently AI-generated Threads video archived from Donna Lynn Roberts had a voiceover claiming that America's #1 strawberry brand is directly tied to cancer and that Driscoll strawberries are sprayed with up to 371 chemical pesticides before reaching consumers. The thread went like this. This is a transcript. It has now been confirmed that America's #1 strawberry brand is directly tied to cancer. Driscoll's, which controls 1/3 of all U.S. strawberries, gets sprayed with up to 371 chemical pesticides before it ever reaches your family's table. They are coating your children's strawberries in mosquito spray and marketing them as organic. Nearly every U.S. strawberry begins as a lab-engineered clone, blanketed in captan, the exact same chemical found in paint preservatives, submerged directly into fungicide baths, allowing 3 separate carcinogens to seep deep into the flesh. And that is only the beginning. These berries then get bleached in chlorine and sealed inside plastic so thoroughly that no amount of rinsing can remove the residue. This is AI at its most wretched. I have looked at the state of California's testing of organic produce for pesticides, including strawberries. The produce is purchased from the marketplace and then tested. Organics show mostly non-detectable residues, with very few exceptions. Not perfect, but an indication of vastly reduced toxic exposures. They are coating your children's strawberries in mosquito spray and marketing them as organic. Rings quite suspect. But Steier should know that this was not Mamavation. No one should blame Mamavation or discount the cancer and other clear-cut risks from farm workers. Or discount the cancer and other clear-cut risk farm workers, applicators, and communities face from the myriad other diseases and maladies that are propagated by exposure to the drift and spray of the pesticides sprayed on strawberries. And we shouldn't discount the risk to our nation's future. It takes healthy children with full cognitive abilities to be able to problem solve, learn, read, contemplate, and run a democracy, and society becomes more and more dysfunctional when children are born with autism, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, learning difficulties, loss of IQ, risk for infertility, gender dysphoria, and even higher risk for environmental and reproductive cancers. All of these conditions are associated with PFAS and pesticide exposures, especially to endocrine disruptors at much lower levels than cancer. And they can occur with a single toxic exposure to the embryo. Steier's reductive approach mimics a horse with blinders. Following this doctor's advice will hurt your children in our future. Fortunately, folks get it. Trisha wrote back to Steier on Instagram. The post about Driscoll said the area around the farmland had increased rates of childhood cancer that I read. Not that the strawberries themselves caused, but that alone, I'm still boycotting them. Hey guys, it's Lane writes, LOL, who paid for this? The real Baruch says, I still prefer organic practices. Why pollute the earth? Interesting, my colleague Mariah C. Blake, author of an excellent book, They Poisoned the World, which is about the poisoning of the world with PFAS. I don't get this, actually like Steier's post. And Blake has written extensively on low-level PFAS exposures, including documenting the tragedy I mentioned in Hoosick Falls, which makes the endorsement strange. And I think it would behoove Blake to remove said endorsement. Or else have folks wondering whether the author believes the words in the book, since Steier's position is so contrary to the book's theme. Steier also makes no accommodation for multiplicative, synergistic, or additive exposures, thus providing a naively simplistic, distorted view of the issue, something else I think Blake would take issue with if the author had looked more closely at what they were endorsing. I think truly Blake's endorsement is weird. The idea is to reduce overall pesticide exposures, not just from strawberries, but also from other high residue fruits, including apples, oranges, and other soft-skinned berries, and in other categories as well. Isolating exposure to strawberries is the ultimate misleading framing. Again, I get back to taking just a part of the elephant, not the whole beast. But Steier isn't alone. OurCancerStories.com picked up on the story and immediately went into chemical defense mode. The group echoed the usual industry defense and asserts, fortunately, detecting pesticide residues in food does not necessarily correlate with a health risk. The tolerance levels set by the EPA are designed to remain well below toxic amounts based on current scientific evidence. This is just not true. I find it odd, to say the least, to find such a naive defense of these chemical contaminants in a dietary staple, especially by a group dedicated to providing, quote, in-depth research-based information on detecting, treating, surviving, and preventing cancer, unquote. After viewing the thread video, not the Mamavation post, Snopes noted in late May 2026, social media users spread warnings about Driscoll strawberries, claiming the berries were linked to cancer and heavy pesticide use. In short, we rated this claim false because available evidence did not show that Driscoll strawberries are sprayed with hundreds of pesticides or that eating them has been confirmed to cause cancer. But again, this is not Mamavation's work, on which Snopes comments. My new book, Raising Healthy Kids, Protecting Your Children from Hidden Chemical Toxins, illuminates the difference between a public health policy with blinders and one with eyes wide open. Your shopping choices really do make a difference, not only for your health, but for so many others as well. I have traveled the Central Valley and Salinas Valley on countless occasions when reporting in my home state of California for publications from LA Weekly to the Arizona Republic and for my books. Salinas, the home of the author John Steinbeck, is an agricultural town literally carved from the rolling fertile farm fields of the northern Salinas Valley. Bathed in coastal breezes that slip in through the mountains to the west and fed by generous underground aquifers and rivers. The schools here are often situated near strawberry and lettuce fields. As I related in my book, the fields throughout the 2010s were heavily sprayed with a multitude of pesticides, including chlorpyrifos, diazinon, and more recently, the PFAS compounds mentioned by Mamavation. Because of this pervasive community exposure, University of California researchers have conducted multiple studies of the use, starting from pregnancy through at least late childhood, documenting IQ losses and clinical brain damage as shown by neuroimaging. It was especially bad for students at schools like Lagunita and McKinnon with some of the highest exposures. And then something happened, a tipping point was reached, one completely contrary to what Steier advocates in the post. Organic foods are one of the youngest markets and didn't begin in earnest until the early 2000s, a time when I kept buying organic strawberries, even though folks like Steier told me I was wasting money because organic was all fake and there was no difference between conventional and organically sourced foods. Sometimes they were quite expensive. They cost a lot less now. That's because of early adopters like me who bought those more expensive organically grown berries, believing they were healthier and worth the cost, not only for my family, but yours too, and our nation. I returned during the pandemic to visit with Oscar Ramos, a Salinas teacher, and discuss the learning disabilities he was seeing among students. We did talk, but I also witnessed a miracle. Something had changed when I visited the Lagunita and McKinnon schools. They were once surrounded by pesticide-sprayed strawberry and lettuce fields. This time, organic strawberries surrounded Lagunita School, and organic lettuce fields bordered McKinnon. This can only be a good thing, I thought, to have schools surrounded by organic strawberry fields instead of being sprayed with pesticides that drift onto the school grounds and impact the children. To me, it was a bit like a miracle. Since I had kept buying those strawberries in the belief that I would make a difference, but didn't know that I was making a difference, I just had to believe I was making a difference. And then I saw it right there. And if you go to my article, you can see all the pictures I took of the signs that say they were organic. It's really quite a moving experience for me. But as Oscar told me, it wasn't just you. It was everyone who was buying those organic strawberries. Everyone doing the right thing for our American family. Together, shoppers made a measurable difference in our lives here in Salinas, and I am grateful. This would not have happened if everyone had listened to Steier. It isn't the strawberries. We all know that. It's the chemicals. If this podcast resonated with you, please do share it, pass it on. Subscribe to my podcast at Official David Steinman on YouTube and my newsletter on Medium, David William Steinman. Till next time, you can find my book, Raising Healthy Kids, Protecting Your Children from Hidden Chemical Toxins, at Amazon.com. And I appreciate your coming today. I'll get off. This has been the longest podcast. Be well. Take care.